there we go.
Let me say this real quick, right? I'm a diehard idealist, right? And I believe that you have good intentions for the future to where the whole environment will one day change to the better. You know, albeit there are bad elements in the neighborhood, albeit, right? Hopefully that in the process of rebuilding, these elements will be possibly eliminated. You know, because I mean, right now people are scared to come out their apartments.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's a shame. You know, and hopefully, idealistically, I do see a good future with what you're planning. You know, I do see that.
Thank you.
You know, and I just hope it becomes fruition to where we can all enjoy that.
So do we, because real design has an effect on behavior.
It does.
Good architectural design, where you don't have the cubby holes to hide, you don't have those places that you just hang out, has an effect on how, where, there are places here that you can hide in this design. And that's something we're going to constantly think about as we build, to build in security cameras on every floor, to build in the outside coverage, to build all of those aspects in. And that's why we need your input too, because this is perfect. I thank you for this, because this is the kind of things we need to be thinking about.
I'm sorry, I do have a question though. With these here new units going up, it was brought to my attention, and I thought about it, and okay, as it is right now, we don't pay for gas and electric or anything like this. With these new units going up, will that be included, or will that have to be?
So let me help answer that. The HUD regulation, which was now and which will be in the future, is that a resident pays 30% of their income for rent and utilities.
Right.
And it will stay the same.
All right. Well,
That stays the
it
same.
was just,
Right?
I was thinking about it, and it did make a lot of sense that, like, we're so used to,
Understood.
and then all of a sudden we get these new homes and we get a utility bill, or maybe a water, because people pay for their sewage and all is here. So is this going to happen to us, or?
So what happens? Let me do this, because I want to be completely transparent. What happens is, if your apartment is individually metered, you're not individually metered now.
Right.
So if your apartment is individually metered, right, then the housing authority will give you the money to pay for your utility bill. So your rent may, say your rent's $300 now, right? Now, today.
Yeah.
So you move into the new apartment and your electricity is going to cost $75.
Right.
Now you're paying $225 rather than $300, right? So there's an allowance for the electricity. So say there's, what else? Well, electric, they'll probably be all electric.
Right.
So there's an allowance made so that your rent decreases so that you can pay that utility bill. Okay? So there is that trade-off
Right.
in doing it. It's called a utility allowance. And actually what really happens also is, if somebody has, say, a $50 rent and their utility bill is $75 estimated, then actually the housing authority gives you a check for $25. That's actually true. That's how that works.
Well, I was just wondering about
No,
that.
that's
a great
good,
question.
because it's a good question and it's something we want to be clear on. Okay?
Can you speak a little bit about the financial viability, given the project-based Section 8s that would come to the lower income units?
Yeah, as far as an increase in income overall for the organization?
Yeah.
What you're addressing, Aaron? So one of the things that we've had happen to public housing that many of you know over the years is that every year Congress decides how much money to give us, right? And Congress turns to us and they say, you need $500 to run that apartment for the year, for the month. Well, this year we're going to give you $400. Too bad, right? Next year we're going to give you $300. and this is what's happened over the years, is our funding is subject every year to what the heck Congress wants to give us, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. Well, the rhyme or reason is how much money they think public housing deserves. So if they know we need $500 to run it, and they only give us $300, it's one of the reasons over the years housing authorities haven't had enough money to keep up, and they haven't cared. What this does is put us into the funding stream of Section 8. So our rent starts, and then there's a contract with HUD, and we get the increase every year. It's not voted on every year by Congress, it's not this, that we're in the same funding stream as those rich guys down the street that have to get an increase every year, or they're going to go to Washington and tell them they need an increase every year, right? So it puts us in a funding stream that's stable, that a housing authority knows how much it's going to get every year, rather than a funding stream that goes either like this, and if you look at it every year, has gone like this. So if that's your question, that's the great advantage, Aaron.
Right, and we'll have a lot more financial ability within the housing authority to do more, as you were suggesting.
And imagine all of that maintenance money that we spend fixing pipes, fixing leaks. We got brand new buildings. So that money isn't getting sucked up like a vacuum cleaner, because we want to paint the hallways. We want to have more maintenance in the units. But honestly, there's only so many dollars that HUD gives us. And when you don't have that sucking up your operating budget, you can do more social services with that budget. You can do things we can't do now because HUD has strangled us. There's no doubt about it.
Well, you know, I do know that there are parts that they don't even make anymore for the buildings.
Right.
And you have to actually spend extra money to have them made.
Yes, we do.
You know, so I know
Yes,
that
we do.
for a fact. You know, and
Yes,
that's
we
very expensive, very, very expensive.
The maintenance on here is completely too expensive, and we need to change that. And that's what's going to guarantee that the assisted housing will be here the next 70 years. We need to put this organization on a firm financial footing for you, but even more important, for your kids and your grandkids. Right?
What's sad part is y'all maintenance workers do clean up. What happened one morning, I saw him cleaning outside. Why are these guys sitting right there with the bottle, drinking, and saw the man clean up and took the bottle and broke it right on the grass? And I saw that whole thing. I said, that's why housing can't keep working, because people want to do it, you know, destroying stuff right in front of them. And I said, that didn't make no sense. That man just got finished cleaning it. Then when y'all walk around, you're going to think they didn't clean it. And I observed him. He cleaned it, man saw it. He like, bam, just did it on purpose.
We all know that, right?
No, but I'm just saying, that's wrong to your workers.
Yep.
Y'all be thinking they didn't clean it, and they did, but people just want to be funny.
Thank you for that.
No problem.
I'm proud of my staff.
You had a question earlier. I didn't want to ignore it.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Mark.
You said this was your first plan. Did you have another plan that didn't have such low buildings, that had more open space, that had fewer elevators and maybe fewer foundations and fewer roofs, and therefore would be a different way of looking at this project?
Well, go ahead, Joe. Answer that question.
So did everybody hear the question? So, yeah, I don't know what happened to the microphone. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the question was, because this was our first plan, or just a first idea, that, and again, this is based on what we heard just from feedback and from a discussion standpoint. And so the question was, did we look at, is it having fewer buildings and more open space?
Taller buildings.
Taller buildings, so that you can have more
Same
open
number of
space.
units, just fewer buildings perhaps, but taller buildings that would allow for more open space and perhaps, of course, the economy of fewer roofs and foundations and all that goes with a more efficient, taller structure.
Okay, so That is a good question. And so one of the things, this goes back to the footprint that you see here is one of the things that came as a result of discussions that we had previously with the residents and the board members and what have you. And so the thing is, we want to have a look that's very, very similar to what you see in the rest of Hoboken, being at the 6 stories where the ground floor is parking, and then you have the 5 stories. So they want the 6-story look so that you blend in with the rest of the community and have that Hoboken look. So that was one. And I understand what you're saying about the taller buildings. The other part of it too is when we were talking with the first responders, in particular the firefighters, they were just talking about the difficulties of when you're dealing with these taller buildings and having to fight the fires with that.
But they allow them, so they must be acceptable
Yeah.
to the fire department on some level. And if you look further north, you have buildings that are 17 stories tall.
Understood.
Further south, you have buildings taller. The senior buildings are even taller that you're currently thinking of renovating. So the idea that you have to limit yourself to the donut-shaped buildings that, frankly, in the north part of Hoboken are failures. They're like gated communities. There's no life on the street because there's no retail. There's just parking. Well, they have these little cubbyhole 400-foot nail salons and things like that. But you need to have life on the street, and you need to have retail, and that's better, more efficiently provided in a taller building.
Yeah, and that is something that we can look at that option. If everybody agrees that is another move, we can look at places where you can make it taller, and you can also have the opportunity to have some more open space. But it is still that when you have that open space on that ground level, we have to remember that it has to be a controlled space so that it is safe for everybody. But that is something that we can explore. That is not a problem
to
at
answer
all.
your question, this is kind of a baseline, and it's using an economical building type. So as much as there is an efficiency in stacking taller buildings, concrete construction is significantly more money than wood construction. And it's prohibitive in market rate to do concrete construction in most markets. That's what we found at our...
All of our new buildings in Hoboken are concrete.
All of them? Sorry. This one right here is...
Well,
Right, but the question is that market rate versus...
taller buildings than this. I mean,
Well, that's what we're saying.
Understood, but is that market rate, but it's the thing of 100% market rate versus this mixed income that we're trying to do, and the funding that's tied to it.
Yeah.
But,
of course, it's partially market rate, but most redevelopment projects now contain at least 10% affordable housing components to it.
right, understood.
Let me addendum this
Okay.
real quick.
Okay.
Cost effectiveness. Those other buildings are not under the auspices of housing authority. So they have their money to build up higher buildings. We don't have money like that. And what we're trying to do, from what I gather, is being more cost effective to where we can spread out money more and build more on lower levels, as well as for the fire department to be able to get to these apartments and put the fires out. You see, so I mean, it would be nice if we were billionaires like Trump or somebody like that who can afford the big buildings, but we can't afford that right now. These buildings are not cost effective as they are.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the final point is there. We want to study that. It's not out of the question. So I think that was your initial question. This isn't the final plan. I think there's an opportunity to go, if there is taller buildings, to be closer to the transit station, where that's usually where you want density, so more people can have closer access to affordable transportation. So that's a possibility.
Yeah, and I would say that we have to remember the goal that we were starting at, because this is the first pass. But the goal was to be able to show that, hey, if we're looking at just the housing authority land that we have, it would be great to have other land to work with. But if this is all we have to work with, this is a strategy that no one gets, displaced to somewhere outside of the housing authority land. It's the opportunity to build right here on land that is controlled under the housing authority, be able to move people around on the housing authority land and keep them in a unit as we make this transition.
I understand the point, and I don't disagree with it.
Right.
But I think the issue of height doesn't have very much to do with that displacement issue.
All right, thanks. Thank you. We get.
Yep.
Does anyone else have
Do we
any
more
questions?
'Cause we're kind of at the
How long is it going to take them to build this place? When you really get the foundation, how long is it going to take them? Years, 5 or 6 years, or what?
Yeah, I think we were saying today it's at least that, and if not more, because these again we can't and don't want to wipe this clean and build all at once, because that would mean no one would have a place to live. So the idea is to build first and replace. That has to do over phases. So we build a building or two at a time, and that would kind of that stretches out the timing, but it allows for people to stay in the neighborhood. So this is just summarize. This is Mark said this a few times. This is a once in a generation or even longer opportunity to think of how this housing here has been here for 70 years, and so what's the next 70 years? We know these can't survive for another 70 years. So what's the next 70 years look like? And so it's a very long time for us, but in the investment to Hoboken and to into your families and community, it's much it's a good investment, and we have to think in those long term for everybody. Does that answer your question?
And I want to make one addition to that, in case you're asking. It's probably it's at least a year to a year and a half before the first actual build.
correct.
Yeah.
It's not tomorrow. And tell your neighbors, this isn't tomorrow. This is in a plan, then we got to do financing, you got to do design, you got to do all that. So I want to make sure that people understand, because I've gotten this from some
Yep,
folks.
thank you.
Should we go home and start packing? No! This is a plan, and we'll be with you and talking to you at every stage, so you will know far in advance. So that's the other side of that, not the outside of when we be done, but even when we begin, we've got a road to travel yet.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, they in the transaction, if they want to offer Section 8, can I take my Section 8 until they finish? Like, because like how they did in Jersey City, like when they did Curry Woods, they gave people Section 8. They took the Section 8, but they went back as they finished the house. A lot of them people I know, they went back to the house and back out there, because they gave them Section 8 because they didn't know where to place all the people at. A lot of people went to Duncan, but a lot of them took Section 8. But once Curry Woods finished their foundation, the people that had the Section 8, they had the obligation to go back to Curry Woods. If they didn't, they didn't, but they did went back to Curry Woods, though.
At this point, we're not planning on that.
No, I mean, like, you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, but at this point, we're not planning on that. Part of the reason, at least, is that there's very little Section 8 availability in Hoboken. Where are you going to find a place to live in Hoboken? People aren't taking our vouchers now. And Jersey City has much more ability for someone to go out and find a place to live for a while. That's not true in Hoboken. So it's a little more of a difficult issue. And the other track round right now, and again, this is the planning stage, is that our plan is to provide that housing right here. So you don't have to move away. So you can be right here, and you don't have to go someplace else and then come back, hopefully minimizing even if in 2 moves. Hopefully that 1 move, you're home, right? Not saying that maybe in some cases we might have to say you move here and then you move over there, maybe. But what we're trying to do is do that plan so you get 1 move, you're home. And so we're not disrupting your lives. You can have that home, and you don't have to do this hopscotching around.
Yep.
Well, the other difference is in Jersey City's program, they applied for Hope 6 program, where they were issued new vouchers. So they had additional vouchers that they could provide to people who wanted them as their relocation choice. Here, that program is not available.
Okay.
And the authority has very few of its own vouchers. But, you know, if you wanted a voucher, you could get on the voucher waiting list.
At the moment.
Well, when it's open again.
Oh, when it's open, I had Section 8 before, and it's a better. When I had Section 8, it was way better. It was way better living and everything. If my landlord didn't sell that property, I still would have been in that house.
Well, when we're done with this, everyone's going to say, we don't want a voucher, we want to live in the housing authority property.
I mean, like for me, I'm being honest. I miss having a voucher. I'm just being honest. I miss having a voucher. I don't care if I had to go back to Jersey City. I would love to. I mean, I was born and raised over there anyway.
Well, everybody, we're about out of time. This has been great. I want to thank all of you and for coming. I want to thank you for your comments. I want you please to stay in touch. My office is right there. Many of you know me. Call me. These folks are at your disposal. I'm a phone call away from all of them. I'm on the phone with them every week. So if I've got an answer I can't answer, I can call them immediately. We can get back to you. If you've got an idea that says, hey, why don't you include this? Let's let it not end here. Having said that, we will be back for a meeting like this in October, because they're going to go back now and sharpen their pencils with some of your ideas. Did Mark leave already? But some of the ideas that have been here today, we're going to sharpen and include. We're going to start refining our plans, and we'll be back telling you and talking to you in October, in November, as this progresses. And then when we have a final plan, we will present it, put it on the table to you for your final comments. We commit that to you. My board members are here. They commit that to you, right? Yeah. They're my marching orders from my board. We are going to be as transparent as we possibly can. We are going to keep you informed. And please invite your neighbors next time too. So the more people we have, the better. With much love and respect, thank you for coming. We will conclude for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So good to see you again.
I'll talk again.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something.
I will give you my